Welcome to the Redvee TV preview show, supported by A-Star Recruitment for the 2021 season. And it has finally arrived. Super League Round 1, the champions return as we aim for the three-peat this week against the Salford Red Devils. Again, it's behind closed doors at Headingley Carnegie. But joining me this week is our favourite Scottish friend, Peter Elder.
Good evening. Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. I won't tell any of my other Scottish Saints pals of my status. We'll just keep that between ourselves. But great to be back. It feels in some ways ages since we did the post-match show after the grand final, but in other ways it seems like it's been about 10 minutes. It's just great to be back. Absolutely.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Peter, because it's 117 days since our instant fan reaction. And on Friday evening, it'll be 119 days since that grand final victory. 4 months, essentially.
It's almost like you've done some research and preparation for this, Dave.
That was my one stat of the evening. Don't ask me for any more. But you know what, Peter? I'm just seeing you there in the new away kit.
Yes.
Tell you what, have the club sent you that to model?
No, but I don't think I'd be number one choice when it comes to modelling any kit. I must be honest.
I don't know. It's like Kevin Nagama would be number one with those rippling biceps, and then you're definitely number two.
Right. Okay. Well, I've been called number two previously, but we'll not dwell on that one. Have I got to get the Tommy Makinson blue steel look of the pout, or the kind of folding the arms and look at the middle distance? I've not really got it, but
like this piece.
Yeah, it's quite nice. It's all right. I thought I'd better put this on for the show today.
No, it's very nice indeed. It's quite fetching.
Yeah, I like it.
It reminds me, the shoulders, when you look at it now, remind me of the old disco ball in the popular side, glistening away.
There we go.
But there you go. St Helens College sponsors, O'Neill making the kit. You got to get cash converters in, Peter. Let's have a look.
What side are we on?
It's in the middle of the shirt, Peter.
Oh, so it is, yeah. Hey, there we go.
There you go.
I was looking for all the small ones. Yeah, there we go.
So yes, Salford on Friday evening. Do you know what? It's a potential banana skin to kick off the year, isn't it?
In a way, it is. Because Salford have been one of these teams for the past few years that they could beat anyone but lose to anyone. Obviously, a bit more consistency the last 2 or 3 years. But I'm kind of interested and slightly concerned for Salford over the course of the season to see how they'll do without Ian Watson, because he seems to have been the catalyst for their revival into not just an also-ran or a bottom dweller, but a team that challenged for the title and a team that was within a few minutes of winning potentially the Challenge Cup last season. So I think there's a massive task for Salford this year to prove that it wasn't just down to Ian Watson, that the collective soul of the club, if you like, can still come together and still be a top half side. I think they might struggle to do that, but it's still a tricky opening game, especially when we've only had one hit out and a few players haven't had any game time because of that. But if we do what we did first round last year, I think we'll all be delighted. But I suspect it'll be a little bit closer this year.
That said, Richard Marshall is taking the reins at Salford. Obviously, he had a really good reputation in the Championship before he came to Saints. Came in, he did the assistant's job for a year, essentially. Did probably everything an assistant possibly can in assisting Christian Wolff into back-to-back championships. And probably deserves his chance at a crack managing a Super League side.
Certainly, because I say they did good groundwork at Halifax. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And then obviously, he's learned under Justin Holbrook, Christian Wolff, 2 championships, 2 grand final wins, as you say. And if you're going to do grounding, then a club like Saints, working with highly respected, excellent coaches like we've had in the last 2 seasons, it stands them in good stead. But it's being your own man in the top level is very, very different. We've obviously seen that with some of the coaches that have come over from the NRL, who have been, assistant coaches or reserve grade coaches and been, the main man at the various Super League clubs. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And until you actually put yourself in that position, you don't actually know how it's going to go one way or the other. But he's got the credentials, he's got the pedigree, and it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I think they might struggle. I'm not sure there'll be playoffs this year, but I know that's maybe tempting fate before Friday, but I still, however it goes, I think it's going to be a tough year for Salford. But yeah, man, I hope Richard does very well. It's always good to see former Saints doing well. Well, except when they maybe go to some clubs, which we wouldn't necessarily mention. But yeah, I mean, I hope they do well. They're a decent club, Salford. They seem to be. They've got themselves up with their bootlaces, and the last few years have been really tough, gritty, hard-working. You know, a proper rugby league team. No superstars, everyone pulling together. So if they keep that attitude and that kind of feeling going, they should be okay. But I still think it'll be very tough for them.
Okay, we'll go on to the squads and we'll discuss Salford further in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So the bloody hell technology working again. It's a miracle.
Yes.
Saints 21-man squad. Obviously, the only names that are really missing is Morgan Knowles, who's a notable absentee. He obviously had thumb surgery during the off-season. He's not completely healed. So we're hearing he's going to miss the first few rounds, potentially up to 5. But you know what? At this stage of the year, Peter, it's a long road ahead of us.
Yeah.
That squad, with the squad that we've got, there's absolutely no need to go risking anybody at all, is there?
Well, certainly not, especially when you look at that 21 and you see that we've got, you know, so the rest of the pack there, essentially, and, you know, all your backline. Although I think there's been some talk that my fellow Scotsman Lachlan may miss out on Friday night, but then again, we'll get Jack Wellsby who can slot in there, and he's done quite well for himself over the end of last season. So I think we wouldn't necessarily be worried there. And he played at full back last year, the first game against Salford, if you remember as well. And when he went there when Cootie came off last year, I think, didn't he, early on, and slotted in well, scored 2 tries on that night as well. Yeah, I'm interested to see a bit more of the new boys as well. Early indications in the first game, you know, they're difficult to take a lot out of a pre-season match, but you know, Joe Thompson playing on the left edge, running some good lines. Hopefully, I don't know if he's got the same kind of skill in hand as Zeb Taylor has. I dare say we'll find out. And obviously the strength and the running power of guys like Matautia, Iggy Pazzi. Good to see him getting a couple of runs with the ball on Friday night as well. So, but I think the team almost picks itself depending on fitness. But I think, as you say, for round one, having only one player, potentially one player unavailable, it's a very good position to be in.
Yeah, I think obviously the rumour mill in full swing saying Lachlan Coote is no more than 50-50 to play. For me, again, you don't risk him because you've got enough squad depth there. I think the obvious choice if Coote does miss out is to slot Jack Wellsby in at fullback. Yeah. Would you agree with that one?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a natural choice. There's no point messing around, you know, 2 or 3 other positions to fill one jersey. Jack can go straight in. Then it's a case of just looking at your bench and seeing whether you have Lewis Dodd potentially involved, or whether it's a case of just slotting Aaron Smith in with the 3 forwards on the bench. You're looking at probably, you know, Louis, Kyle Amor, and either probably Pazzi or Matautia. So yeah, we're going in pretty strong, and we shouldn't really have any excuses apart from maybe a little bit of rustiness. But in terms of having the bodies available, we're going to be getting, you know, as strong as you can hope to be in round one.
You have to say as well that A-Star recruitment logo on the back of the shirt looks spectacular also.
Well, that's it. Yeah, it's as if they needed any more recognition, and obviously having the Redvee TV emblazoned, you know, on your shirt there, and, you know, going literally all over the world, especially when ourselves are involved in the preview show and fan reaction. But yeah, they certainly, maybe, you know, they felt like they needed even more of a brand awareness. So yeah, it's you know, obviously it's not as high profile as this, but I'm sure they'll be quite happy with the the kickback they'll get from that.
Obviously, right, Jack Wellsby, the newly crowned King of St Helens, based on his heroics in last year's grand final. Now, I don't know what you think about this, and I don't know what everybody else thinks out there, and you can let us know in the comments. But for me, Jack Wellsby is not guaranteed a place in the lineup. Obviously, Mark Percival is back fit once again and should slot back into the centres. Coots at the full-back position. Your halves is basically Lomax, Farge, and potentially or Dodd. So Jack Wellesby, for me, could he potentially spend another year in a utility role and slotting in where we've got injuries? Obviously, they will happen along the year, so he's going to get a massive amount of game time. But for me, he hasn't quite got that settled position on which he'll be pushing for throughout the year, because obviously he wants to become established in the lineup.
Yeah, no, listen, I absolutely agree. I think if you look at your 1 to 7 jerseys there, that's your starting backline. Unless, as you say, you have injuries or you need to do some squad rotation, which will happen. I know it's obviously Kevin Agam. I know it's in the tweet Saints to put out this season, and counting down to the start of the season. I didn't realise Kev was it 32 or 33 or something. So he's maybe his last year with us anyway. So they might rotate him with Jack Wellesby, giving him more game time there. Who knows? Obviously, want to give Kev plenty of time to play as well, because obviously as him and Percy are our number one partnership there. But if there's a guy who's maybe not going to be there next year, potentially, then you say, well, let's give the young guy a little bit more time. The same with Josh Sim as well. He was impressive in the run-outs he had last year as well. So hopefully we won't suffer too many injuries in the back line. But if we do, you've got guys, as you say, at Wellesby there, Sim, Lewis, Dodd. I'd like to see him get more of a run at half back when he's going to get a game rather than at dummy half. And even a couple of wingers. I quite like the look of Nico Roselli in the Salford game last year, and also in the brief run out in the Tommy Mack testimonial. But he looks pretty good ball carrier, good runner. I like to see him get a little bit more game time as well. But listen, we've got strength and depth and some cracking young guys to come in. But on the point of Wellesby, in the 1 to 7, he's not a guaranteed starter, absolutely not. But what a good guy to bring in literally any of those positions.
Oh, unbelievable, yeah. And listen, we know from last season, injuries strike all over the park. So it's a squad game these days, and maybe the days of starting your best 13 have potentially gone, because it's very rarely that you see them all on the park together. King Kev is actually 32, just.
Yes.
But 33 by the time next season rolls around. So you're quite right. That might come into the thinking. As might Theo Farge as well. His contract is up at the end of this year. So it's a potentially big year for the club to decide maybe what road they're going to take in 2022. I think Lewis Dodd will get more game time this season. And I think that may well determine whether Theo Farge stays at the club, or if he does, well, whether he leaves or not, and if he does stay, just how long his contract will be moving forward. So tough decisions for the club, but you know what? They're really, really good decisions to have to make, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. And I think you look back a few years, it's always been the case at Saints where if you've got established players like Kevin Agama, like Theo Farge, but you get to the stage where the young guys coming in behind them, if they're now ready to play, you have to make the decision: do we let them go and play elsewhere, or do you say to the established guys, we're not renewing your contract, there's young guys that need to play now? You've seen it years ago with the likes of Sean Long. We let him go because we had Kyle Eastman ready to come in and wear the jersey. Unfortunately, that in a long-term way didn't work out. But when he came in, he was the man. He was ready to play. And we've seen that with various other players. I suppose Cunningham retired because Robes was ready to be the number 9. For moving forward, and that's worked out not too badly, I suppose. So I think that's the decision you have to make, because if you give Kev another year, if you give Theo another 2 years, you're saying to Lewis Dodd, you're another 2 years here in the reserves. You either stunt a guy's growth or you give them the chance to play. I'd always be of the opinion that if they're good enough, if they're ready, you promote them if you've got enough faith in them to do so. Not that I'm saying we bin Faj or Kevin Agama for the sake of it, but if these guys are ready to play, they've either got to play it with Saints, or you say we're going to go and let you play somewhere else. But I'd rather go down the route of giving these guys their go with us.
Big decisions to make about who takes them bench spots. If we assume that if Lachlan Coote misses out, Wellesby will probably start at 1, and that will probably promote Lewis Dodd to the bench. If Coote was to play, who misses out of that squad? For me, it's probably Aaron Smith, Joe Batchelor, Josh Sim, and then do you go with that final bench spot between Lewis Dodd and Jack Wellesby? Maybe go with Wellesby for his versatility.
Yeah, if we're going with three big forwards on the bench, if you've got like Louis, Kyle Amor, and Pazzi, for example, on the bench, then you could have a Lewis Dodd, or a Jack Wellesby. But I think this year we need to add the looking to have a hooker on the bench every week. Robes is still fit. He's still an absolute Hercules out there. He just gives everything. He played the full 80
that, Peter,
in the grand final.
Do you potentially move James Bentley into 9 when Robes is off the park?
I mean, that's a possibility, but again, what you're saying there to Aaron Smith is that we don't think you're good enough to come in and take the jersey, even for a 15, 20-minute spell. And if you're saying that to Aaron Smith like this year, or Josh Eaves, when he gets his turn, you say to these guys, like, you don't have a future here, so I think you need to give them their chance this year more often than we did last year. Give them 20, 25 minutes every game, because then we've got to learn this year whether one of those guys or both are going to then be the hookers moving forward the next couple of years. If they're not, then we need to make a decision that, right, we need to be looking to bring someone else in, because this may be Robes last year, it may not be, but we need to start making plans for who the successor to the throne is, you might say.
I think that's it for me, Peter. Like last season, it seemed like Smith and Eaves, they both got the chance. Nobody nailed down that shirt, and it seemed by the end of it that Christian Wolf was actually preferring Bentley potentially playing in that role.
Yeah.
And for me, if Aaron Smith wants that jersey when Robes does retire, he's really, really got to put himself in the window and make himself undroppable. And I'd have to say, to this moment in time, although he's not ever let anyone down, there's a significant drop off when Robes is off the park, and do you know what? That'd be the same probably with anyone playing in that position. But to be Saints starting number 9, first choice, I'd say he probably has to step his game up, and I'm sure he'd probably think the same.
Well, it's a heck of an act to follow when you look at you had Kieran Cunningham for all those years, but you had Robes for all those years. He would be, if Aaron Smith was in the 9 jersey next year, I mean, that's a heck of a responsibility, because people are going to look at him and say, oh, he's not as good as Cunningham, he's not as good as Robbie. They made a lot more meters, they went through more tackles. He's going to be very much under the spotlight, rightly or wrongly, but having followed in the footsteps of guys like that, you are going to be judged by their unbelievably high standards. And that is going to be a hard act to follow, whether you want Aaron Smith to be a starting 9 or whether we go either to the NRL or one of the other Super League clubs and pick a ready-made, experienced guy, to slot in there and have Aaron off the bench again as to spell him. I don't know. It's a tough call. I wouldn't like to be the guy making it, let's be honest.
You know what? Again, the squad depth is absolutely phenomenal, though. The fact that we can have so many conversations about so many different combinations is probably testament to the squad that we've built. And for me, there's too many other teams being put into the equation for who's going to win Super League this season. Saints, for me, are still the team to beat.
Yeah, well, obviously we're bound to have a little bit of bias towards Saints. We've won 2 in a row, and although I did send our erstwhile colleague Kev my written prediction for the website, and I wouldn't like to say if I said Saints were going to be winning the three-peat or not. Better not say anything, but it's going to be a
read the preview probably either tonight or early tomorrow. I've just got to make sure it works on the website.
So I won't give anything away on that score, but I think it's going to be very hard. I mean, other teams have recruited. I think we've recruited pretty well. Other teams, I think, have recruited pretty well as well, and I think Wigan, I'd have to say, are probably one of them as well. But it's going to be tough. But there's no reason why we can't do it. We've set the standards. Last season we weren't great for the first part. After the kind of shutdown, we come back and we should have beaten Salford. We should probably have gone 100%. But we ended up as champions. And you can't do any more than that.
we move on to the Salford squad. And I know this is what I was going to say earlier on. Obviously, you were talking about whether Salford struggle. I think they'll be mid-table, pushing for maybe 6th spot. Because when you look at the names on that team sheet, there's quite a few experienced campaigners. Whether it's a little bit of Dad's Army being led by Kev Brown, who's an old man in Super League terms now, same age as us, or me. But yeah, it's an old man's team, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Thanks for quickly disassociating yourself with my age, Dave. That was a sidestep that James Robbie would have been proud of. There's some great names there, like Sparta Lighting Services.
Poor old
Austin
Declan
Wilkinson
Patton,
there.
Poor old Declan Patton, who you're sponsored by, the Dog and Partridge.
It's just gloriously rugby league, isn't it? It just screams a northern sport. It's marvellous. I think you look at the guys who don't have any sponsors. Is it better not having a sponsor than being sponsored by the Dog and Partridge? That's the key question, isn't it? There's a lot of
old Matt Costello, star signing from the champions, and can't even get the Dog and Partridge to sponsor him.
No, it's sad days. Sad days. But you're looking at their team. There's a lot of very handy guys there. All right, Morgan Eskery's bounced around a couple of teams. We look Ken Seal. He's a good finisher. Christian Inu had a very good season, I think, for them last year. Kev Brown, maybe his last go in the merry-go-round. You look at a lot of the forwards there. You maybe say the likes of like Polly is maybe the one that you think he might be blown a little bit after a while. But you look at the rest of them. Mossop's an absolute unit. There's the boy Liv Harvey Levette. I mean, he's been one of these guys, maybe not quite a regular, but he's the type of guy that he goes to a club like Salford, and he's really, they give him a chance, and he's a guy that takes his chance. They've got some good players there, but there's not very many there that I would take over their rival in the Saint in a Saints jersey. To be honest,
let's be perfectly honest. There's none. There's nobody in that squad who would get in the Saints side over players who were in it. When you look at it, it's a team of players who have essentially been on the edge of, or like it's hard to describe it, on the edge of squads. So like Declan Patton wasn't quite in the Warrington team. Morgan Eskery was in and out of Catalan's team. Lola Hare didn't really make it at Leeds. Dan Sargentson was in Wigan side for a few years, then was literally on the edge of the squad. So there's players there who've still got a point to prove. Obviously, Callum Watkins coming back to Super League as well. Let's be honest, we thought he was finished when he left Leeds, but he's reappeared. So he'll have a point to prove, and hopefully they're not watching this video because we're just fueling them. But there we go.
Yeah.
But on that day, that squad could probably give us a game.
Yeah, I mean, we've been spoken about Salford over the last 2, 3, 4 years under Ian Watson. They were a kind of like I hate to say something like a kind of like a rag bag of guys who've been let go by other clubs and discarded, but that's what Salford have done. They brought these guys in, given them a chance, and Ian Watson moulded them in to a team that was greater than the sum of its parts, and they probably have overachieved. As you say, you look at that team on paper and you think, it's decent to win some games, but it won't, set the world on fire. But with you look at the squad that got to the grand final, the squad that got to the Challenge Cup final, you just say the very same thing. But if Richard Marshall can harness the spirit that Ian Watson managed, then they could have a decent year again. But that is going to be the challenge, whether Richard Marshall can have the same effect and the same impact that Ian Watson had, and that itself is going to be a massive, massive ask.
Yeah, and obviously Josh Johnson in that Salford squad, something a bit fishy about him.
Oh dear.
Right.
Well, we've decided you're doing the bad jokes this year, which is fine by me.
This year, Peter. Not watched this previously. Right. Now, obviously, today the club have come out and for the 2020 members who donated the cost of their memberships, the club are going to have a nice little warm-up top that the players will warm up in throughout the year with all the names included. For those who apparently filled in the rebate form, your name will be on that shirt. Nice little touch. I've seen a couple of people moaning on Facebook saying, that it highlights the people who didn't. Well, it doesn't. It highlights the people who did. No, I don't know whether you donated or not, and do you know what? I don't actually wish to know, and I don't wish you to tell us. But I'm not going to go scanning that jersey to see whether you did or you didn't.
Well, the thing I had this I've got a supporters membership, which is I think it's like 20 quid, and you get certain like benefits. So there wasn't anything that I could give back to the club anyway. The only tickets that I had were for the Magic weekend, but they obviously could transfer onto this year, so there wasn't anything I was able to. I know a lot of people who did do that, who gave their money back, which I think is a marvellous gesture, because and when times are tough for people, if you're talking about a couple of £100 getting back or something of that nature, then that's a lot of money just to forego. And I tip my hat to people who did that. Would I have done that in that position? I probably would have, because I wasn't expecting to get that money back anyway. But as I say, my membership is a supporter membership because I'm not coming to every game, so it's not. I can't really justify a season ticket for that basis. So I'm happy enough to say I would have done if I was in that position, probably. But I absolutely doff my hat to the people who did, because it's a lot of money, especially if you've got a family giving up that money. But so no, and it's a good gesture with the club recognising that as well.
And I think that's it. Do you know what? For the people who have donated, they've done it for everyone's benefit, because you'll only look at the squad that we're able to put out this year and keep all the players. So even for the fans who haven't been able to donate the money for whatever reason, their own personal circumstances or not, there should be a little bit of thanks there, because the efforts of the people who have been able to donate the money and have been able to afford to do so are meaning that we're maybe able to keep that one extra squad player to be able to go out and maybe sign the Dan Norman, who will come into the squad and help us throughout the year. So, for those who've donated, thank you very much. It is appreciated by everybody in the fan base.
Absolutely. And I think what I chose to do, obviously not having a season ticket to donate back, when it came to like get Christmas and then spending some money, I spent some more money at the same shop.
On that lovely jersey.
People, well, exactly, yeah. And other people, I'm sure, have done the same and spent that little bit more, getting the home jersey, away jersey, a new like polo shirt or a jacket or something, which I did as well. So, and I think everyone's probably done that a little bit more, that especially people who weren't able to give back, or like in my case, didn't have anything to donate back.
I think the only thing they've missed a trick on is not selling that jersey to the people whose names are on it, because you'd have 3,000 guaranteed sales if your name was on that jersey, guaranteed buyer.
Oh,
and if your name isn't, then you wouldn't.
Well, that's true, but I mean, if you've said that we'll let you buy it for like a tenner, that's 30 grand.
Maybe it's an option once we've exhausted the home and away shirt sales. Just drop it in throughout the summer. At the end of the year, we've decided to thank you. We've decided to make it last, maybe.
That'd be a good shout.
Predictions for Friday night then, Peter?
First prediction of the season. Okay. I think I'm fairly confident that Saints will get the win. I don't think it will be by the 40-point margin we did over them last year, but I'm going to go for Saints by 22, which I think most people would be fairly happy with.
Yeah, I'm going to go for 36 points to 8. Saints by 28. And I tell you what, my bet for this year, until it actually comes in, is Sio Matautia, first try scorer. I think he'll be pretty decent odds. I think if anybody ever saw him in a Newcastle Knights jersey, he played on the wing for his early years. He knows where the try line is. He's got a good turn of pace, and I think Lomax will be putting him through a few gaps.
No worries. Well, if you want, I'll do a first try scorer bet as well. And I'm going to go for a guy who got 2 against Salford in the opening day last year, Big Al. I'm going for Big Al. There we go. A safe bet maybe, but we shall see.
Right, Peter, thank you for joining us. Don't forget,
My
everybody,
pleasure.
the game on Friday evening kicks off at 6 p.m. So if you're expecting to turn Sky on at 8 and see the Saints, then you'd have missed it, and you may as well be watching us on the fan reaction instead. We will be back on Friday evening for that instant fan reaction, the first one of the year. We hope you can join us. Thanks to Peter for joining us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we will catch you on Friday evening for the instant fan reaction. Catch you soon.
Thank you.